Your free beneficiary planner. That's 1-800-673-7570. There's no obligation. 1-800-673-7570. Call now.
If you are watching this morning and you or someone you know struggles with mental health, then listen up, because our next guests probably have a lot to share with you, and something that's out there in Chattanooga now that you might not even know exists, and chances are you'll want to take advantage of it. This is Phil Vieira, this is Casey Shaw, and they are with Time Wellness, newly opened February of last year. You kind of have a novel, I think, business model, if you will, Phil, because y'all are there to really help people at a time when nobody else can step in to fill that void.
I appreciate you saying that. I don't often think of it that way, but I think so, and I think most humans struggle with life in general at times, and so needing something to give them an opportunity to breathe a little bit and understand what's happening inside of themselves to function better on a daily basis is very important and good for not only that individual but their family and the community around them as well.
So the novel business model, at least in my view, Casey, is that what you do in that filling the void is, if you are somebody and you're watching today and maybe you go to therapy once a week, and that's fine, but sometimes you can't wait a week, but your therapist can't get you in. Or you're in a hospital setting and you no longer need to be there, but you're not quite ready to go home. Y'all kind of are there to cover that territory for people, to protect them and lift them up.
Yes, yeah. If a client is in a hospital and they are dealing with mental health, they're in the psychiatric unit, things obviously got bad enough to the point where they needed to go to the hospital, but for them to go from that setting back home can be, you know, a 0 to 100 and can be very intimidating and scary. And so sometimes they need a buffer for in between. So where that buffer, where they can go somewhere, they can stay with us, and they have clinical hours from 9 to 3, Monday through Friday, but they're in a safe space and they don't have that same environment of being back home, and they're able to still get that continuum of care.
Right. And then on the reverse side, if you are at home, but you're having kind of an acute issue going on, you need to also be protected and safe so you can come to you for that elevated care. Is that right?
Yes.
So something else, y'all actually accept private insurance. So depending on what your insurance covers, though, they will be there to step in. You know, you can't, if you're suffering with something that really is a problem, you can't turn your mind off.
No.
So you are living with these thoughts 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Seeing somebody for just 1 hour, well-intended as it might be, isn't going to get you through.
No, and I think oftentimes even just in that hour, the warming up process, right, of what's been going on and catching someone up even over a week's time isn't enough to give somebody an accurate idea of what's really happening.
Yeah, as you're getting into it, it's time to leave.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And that hour is usually about 45 minutes too. So I think where we provide a better opportunity at times is that, you know, it's 5 days a week from that very acute clinical perspective, and then outside of those hours as needed, there's a lot of support and help out there so that that warming up process doesn't have to happen and we can maximize all of the time possible.
You treat people, if you will, you service people 18 and up.
Correct.
But, you know, once you begin to make a list of mental health conditions, I never know the right word to even use.
It's changing all the time. So
what is the one today?
We could say disorder.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I hate to even say that because it implies there's a stigma associated with that.
Big time.
And so then if you are the person who is struggling, you don't want to be associated with something that is a disorder, and you don't necessarily know how to live like everybody else. You'd love to, but you don't know how.
Correct. And one of our biggest goals is to change that line of thinking for everybody as often as possible. That stigma, right? How do we get to a place where it's really okay to say, I'm having too much anxiety to get to where I need to go on a daily basis. I need some help. And that not be a bad thing. It's good to be able to express that and not feel as if there's going to be some blowback or pushback, or you're less of a person as a result.
Right. So let's go back to the time thing, because I
Yes.
think that's really a very powerful word. And it's time for the person struggling. It's also time for what their support network, whether it's family, friends, whatever. You mentioned, I'm feeling too much anxiety right now. I need some time, which is fair. But for the people who love that person, they're probably thinking, geez, how long is this going to go on? I miss you.
Yes. It's one of the conversations we have most with families is how long is this going to be and when can we fix them? And that is a process that takes time, and I don't think that people are ever in need of fixing it all. They're just in need of identifying what's going on with them and what they can do on a daily basis to cope with, navigate, or deal with what's happening, whether it's in their brain or in their body, to perform the life they want to, not so much just satisfy the needs of everybody around and be fixed.
That's a powerful statement you just said. Live the life they want to,
Yes.
as opposed to living the life that other people want them to live.
Yeah, I think what I've noticed in my own experience, both personally and professionally, is often where a lot of the beginning of these disorders or issues come from is that idea of having to force, a square peg into a round hole. Instead of how can I adapt what's happening within me to the people around and still be myself, then a lot of that anxiety, depression, fear tends to go away, and that authenticity shines through. But it's a timely process, and I think it's not often acceptable to take a bit of a respite, and our hope is to make that more acceptable for everybody.
Because again, as Casey was pointing out, you can do a day program where you still live at home, but you come to you for the clinical part essentially 9 to 3, right? So you're getting far more than 1 hour
Yes.
once a week. And if it is where you're a housing situation, they're still in clinical 9 to 3, but then they're safe by coming to live with you for that period of time. Is it a good idea if somebody were to call you? First of all, can they call you on their own, or do they have to be referred by their physician?
They can call us on their own.
Okay, and then can you take a look at their insurance information to find out for them?
Yes, the admissions process is relatively easy and quick. They can call our number and an admissions person will answer. We'll ask some basic information as far as like what is it that you're struggling with, what's going on, kind of assess what it is that they need, and is it more of like a thought disorder or a mood disorder. We will get their insurance information, we can verify it within a few hours, and then we would just do a pre-assessment with them over the phone, so it can be done quickly, and then our clinical team looks over it and just approves it, and we'll pair them with a individual therapist as well that we think would be the best fit for them.
One thing we have not talked about in the list of issues that people can struggle with is PTSD. That is a big one, however, and y'all have an event coming up June 18th focusing on that very thing. What are you doing?
Yeah, the goal is just to bring awareness to the community about what PTSD is. This is PTSD Awareness Month, so trying to incorporate something that can be helpful to everyone as a whole is the goal. Our medical director will be speaking. I believe we're going to have a former client talk a little bit about their experience with PTSD and what they've done to cope with it, not only while they were with us, but also in the time since leaving. And then really just leave an opportunity in the few hours that will be there for anybody to walk around, ask questions, get to know us a little better, and identify maybe what's happening in their lives or they've seen, so we can all work together.
And while they are in your bubble, like you had mentioned, if you're leaving the hospital but you're not quite ready to go home, eventually the goal is to be able to be home long term and have a very successful life. That's going to require support from those who are in your world. So do you support them too and educate them, the family and support members?
Big time.
Okay.
I think one of the biggest pieces of anything is that family unit or that tribe, right? Sometimes people don't have that direct family when they come to us, but how can we connect them with a community of people that will give them the opportunity to have a family? But yes, working intensively with the loved ones all the time.
It starts with a phone call, 413-6195, Time Wellness in Tennessee, down on Chestnut Street, June 18th. That's where you'll want to go, 4 to 6 for that PTSD Awareness Night. Thank you.
Thank you.
These days, family fun can really add up, but there's one place that can save you some serious cash this summer. The perks of our local libraries that can save